Welcome to the Fishbowl Radio, everybody. My name is Chief here, and joining me today is Juicy. We're going to talk a little about the transfer portal with Trey Amos entering the transfer portal for the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. LSU being number one on top of the SEC West standings, and where they're looking at in the regional picture coming up, getting ready for SEC tournament play. And Louisiana Ragin Cajun Softball is in first place in the Sun Belt Conference, and they are just continuing their winning ways. And we're also going to recap LSU softball their past weekend against Alabama. So, without further ado, let me introduce everybody to Juicy. How you doing today, Juicy?
Oh, I'm good, man. What's up there? Y'all over there?
Oh, not much going on over here. So, Juicy, what was your initial reaction when you heard Trey Amos was entering the transfer portal? This is the breaking news we got here coming into the Fishbowl Studios.
I was pretty shocked. I was really surprised at how many offers he said he got. I mean, he has done well, pretty well. It's really surprising that a starter would leave. It's usually the people who are impatient or the backup who don't want to wait their turn. So, I mean, it's really kind of a surprise and a big blow to the Ragin Cajun football team. It's going to be a big it's going to be a big spot to fill there for sure. Not surprisingly, Florida was one of the schools that offered him. Really neat year's recruit.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what transpired with that, look, I gotta apologize to the people on Twitter. I did kind of do a little goof up, which is kind of normal. It is regulated. The transfer portal is regulated, but the way it's regulated is a terrible system, and it doesn't work. Okay? Point blank, it doesn't work. So, here's the problem with the transfer portal. Okay, so, and this is why I think,
it doesn't really affect it doesn't really affect like the larger schools. It affects much more
the smaller schools. And look, we had somebody that even messaged got comment on the Fishbowl Radio thing saying, oh, a lot of times it's the big time schools players going down to the smaller school players to get playing time, which is what hypothetically you would think it would actually happen that way. But the data points that these people come up with is, okay, perfect example. I'm going to use one before the transfer portal because this made sense, all right? We were, the only podcast that were covering the Ragin Cajuns in 2016, okay? And you know what quarterback I'm going to talk about because this one here is a perfect example of why this person's argument was completely wrong. 100%. So he was quoting data from 2012. You cannot quote data from 2012 because that data is dated. That's like me going back into the 70s and saying Pluto was a planet, okay? Pluto's not technically classified as a planet anymore. So anyway, back when his data was 11 years old, okay? And he was referencing stuff like this, like these players dropped down or whatever. So let me destroy that theory real quick here on the Fishbowl Radio. All right, so what his point was, a lot of players in the bigger schools go down to the smaller schools, the Power 5 go down to the G5, and they go with all these other programs here. But the quality player, okay? And this is something we talked about last year. Remember this, Juicy? You're going to remember this one. You get a star player, okay, at a G5 school, like Grayson McCall, right? Coastal Carolina's quarterback, all right? He had gotten the transfer portal, decided to go back to Coastal Carolina. He didn't go anywhere. But let's say if hypothetically he went to, or like Brian Kelly. Look at what Brian Kelly did with LSU's team in 1 year of the transfer portal. Turned him into a top 10 football team. They beat Alabama last year. Big win for LSU, okay? Completely turned that team around from what they were the year before that, okay? You want to know why? Transfer portal, okay? Really got down into it, and he did a lot of.
Transfer portal.
Yeah, he wasn't a big fan of it, right?
Yeah, it makes me wonder if Coach Hill was a adapted to it. That's what's off of it.
So that's what I'm saying. Coach Desimo isn't a big fan of the transfer portal. He'd rather hone into recruits and raise them up that way, which I think might hurt him in the future. Okay, that might be something down the line that might actually hurt him. I don't have any predictions on that yet, but I'm keeping an eye on what that is right now because we're tracking that as well here on the Fishbowl. So anyway, there's stuff going on here, okay? So back to what I was saying. Remember Anthony Jennings, okay? I love bringing up Anthony Jennings, okay, because in my mind, I was like, this is an SEC quarterback coming to a Sun Belt school, and he's going to light up the Sun Belt Conference. He played at LSU. Now, granted, LSU wasn't known for their quarterbacks, all right, before Joe Burrow. You remove Joe Burrow from the whole entire ecosystem of LSU football, you got a whole different monster of quarterback, okay? You find, like, diamonds in the rough here and there throughout LSU's history of football, great quarterbacks, but they're very far and few in between, okay? They're mostly game managers that do a very good job of managing the game, and they're going to win. Excuse me. Anyway, so basically what's going on here is, so what the Power 5 program is able to do here, and like this guy's data point, I'm going to destroy his theory real quick, is they can recruit all these 5 stars and all these 4 stars. The guys that don't work out and they're not quite 4 stars or 5 stars like they often are, some of these guys, they won't get no playing time. They transfer away to these other teams, okay? That's why I don't really care about recruiting stars that much. Like, look at Justin Jefferson, 2-star prospect, one of the best players in the NFL. Point blank. That really right there just tells you that the stars don't really mean squat, honestly. So now Anthony Jennings went down to UL, did not do that great at all. Very terrible numbers for a quarterback. Was it the system? Was it Jennings? I think it was more Jennings than the system itself. I'm giving Coach Hutt a break there on that one because it was a spread offense system. He should have did very well. He was a mobile quarterback. I'm not going to knock him too much, but look, some things just don't work out, right? So anyway, back to continuing what this is here. Back to his data point, going back to 2012 here, saying that the large trickle-down effect of these Power 5 going to these G5 schools. So just because they played at a Power 5 school doesn't mean they're going to replace the talent that's leaving these G5 schools. You can have this imbalance of talent, right? So let's say if Juicy, okay, let me use you and me as an example, okay? Let's say Juicy was a 5-star prospect, okay? He was a 5-star running back, and I was a 2-star running back, okay? Juicy was heavily recruited at LSU, okay? I'm going to use LSU and UL as an example. Juicy just wasn't good. He had fumbling problems, injury prone, couldn't stay on the field. He just wasn't really built up, but he had like 4.3 speed, right, as a running back, and he could run through the hole really good, but he would fumble the ball. So, the coach is like, oh, Juicy, we don't want you here at LSU. You need to get out of here. We're not going to play him. Like, okay, so basically trying to tell him to get away, basically. So Juicy transfers to UL, okay? Now, I'm over there. I'm a starter. I work hard. I didn't have really the good stars, but I'm all Sun Belts. I'm really good at what I do, and Juicy's injury prone coming in and stuff like that. So LSU's like, hey, Chief, you're a great running back. You come over here to LSU because just go put your name in the portal. Like Monk will tell me, oh, put your name in the portal. They'll pick you up. Okay, now, is there tampering going on in the portal? There was tampering going on with all this stuff before any of this stuff broke down. And if you don't think that's happening, you are lying to yourself. What's that saying? Lie, cheat, and steal and win, right?
It's legal now.
It's legal, right? It's legal, okay? Basically, you can't talk to the players before they get in the portal, but there's ways around that. You go give that guy's uncle $1 million, I guarantee you, I'll be the biggest supporter of my nephew going to any school in the country. Yeah, man, I tell you what, ULM's looking really good. Shoot. That's there's ways around it, right? So let's say, okay, back to my little scenario here with me and Juicy here. Y'all understand what I'm going with this. I work hard. I'm a like all Sun Belt, great freshman year. Like I had 2,000 yards rushing. I'm on the list, right? So do you think Juicy's going to be able to reciprocate the performance that I put out during that time there? Of course not, right? Because he can't stay on the field because he's injury prone and he's got fumbling problems. It just don't make no sense to me. So by this guy's metric, Power 5 players are automatically better than G5 players, which that doesn't equal out. Not even close.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like I said, like we said last year before.
Majority of them are, but there's some that don't quite pan out.
Yeah, and that's in my scenario, like what we talked about. Like that's just one way, like the Anthony Jennings thing, right? He just wasn't meant to be a Power 5 college football player. Some people ain't made to be a Division I football player. They go play in the FCS, which is also still technically Division I, but they might not make it over there either. They go Division II. That's like it just doesn't work out for some guys. Okay, so that's basically my point there. It just doesn't work out. They just don't get the system, or they just can't figure out the playbook or whatever. So carrying on with that, I think every single player there, once you enter the transfer portal, you should sit out a year. I've already said that since last year. Me and Juicy have said that since this whole thing even started, that they should sit out a year automatically. Look, people are like, well, why they can't play when they start out? Because look, man, you made a decision, okay? So, like, it's not fair to the coaches because these guys can just get up and leave. They have like a certain amount of time, okay, so that these guys can just go sit there and they wait. Like today was last day for transfer portal. That thing should have been in March or April. April probably the latest. Like you have from January to April to figure out if you're going to stay there or not, okay? Same thing like during the season, like could you imagine if they open that stuff up during the season, these guys are just dipping out in the middle of the season? That would be freaking crazy.
They should give them they should give them like 2 weeks after the season, though, and that's it. You can't make up your mind 2 weeks, well.
Well, like, granted, I'm okay with giving them months because living arrangements, trying to figure out NIL deals and what they got going on. That's mostly what's driving this stuff. NIL deals. I think the transfer portal, like, I'm okay with NIL deals. I think it's okay for the sport. I think it should drive competition, right? But it was going on way before then. Just some people just got busted with it than others. So it is what it is. All right, I'm done talking about the transfer portal. I'm not a big fan of it. I think it ruins the game of college football because it's like a micro NFL. There, I said it.
I'll be the last man.
What you think about the transfer portal, Juicy?
I don't think it'll last forever. I think it'll only go on for a few years. Then it'll come. I think if anything, coaches are gonna make the most complaints about it. I think it's gonna do away with it, but I still think they can recruit. They'll still be able to recruit players with NIL money. They just won't be able to transfer, or they just won't be able to transfer out. But they can use NIL money to recruit players.
It's gonna hurt some programs because it's just gonna be way too much for them. Like it's gonna hurt a big time program one day, and then they're gonna be screaming their heads off to get rid of it.
Well, I don't think it's gonna affect them as much. They can easily big time programs can easily replace.
Oh, it's gonna happen to one of them. They make a bad coaching hire, like literally, like watch Alabama or somebody. Like if they don't have a Nick Saban on their staff, whenever he goes to retire, they're gonna be complaining about it if they can't match what he had. Like it's gonna take one of these programs and one of their big time coaches. Like retiring or leaving the sport or whatever, that's what's going to end this transfer portal business because, like, they have the power, right? Big times like Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, they all have the cards, right? So USC, they're pulling the purse strings at this point. So it's just going to be one of those things here. Once one of them complains about it, if they don't have a good coach at their helm, they make a bad hire, they'll be the ones screaming their heads off about it and wanting to get it removed. And that's what's going to end up happening with the transfer portal. That's what I think.
It should be removed.
Yeah. Anyway, Louisiana Ragin Cajuns lost the series to Coastal this past weekend. Came really close in that last game against Coastal, being able to pull it off. Carson Rockefeller, I thought he hit a walk-off, but got robbed over the right field fence, which prevented the Cajuns from beating them. And, the game went on to extras, and the Cajuns lost in the 11th inning, 3-2. So if it wasn't dead before then, it's definitely dead now for an at-large bid because the highest-ranked RPI team they have left currently is Southern Miss, which is 25. Now, you have Texas State at 49, them at 25. ULM's at 229, so that's going to drop it a good bit because this is no benefit playing ULM. So running through this simulation here, because I think Warren Nolan is actually starting to get kind of more, kind of together with it to see where the Cajuns end up being at here in baseball. They got them finishing with an RPI of 55, strength of schedule of 57, and a non-conference RPI of 42, 35 and 21 with a quadrant 1 and 2 record. Quadrant 1, 6 and 8, quadrant 2, 3 and 4 is what they would have them finishing with this prediction. They have them losing the series to ULM, which I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to sweep ULM. Louisiana Tech, I think they'll beat Tech. Tech ain't good like they were a couple of seasons ago. Texas State, that's kind of a toss-up, I think. Southern Miss is a toss-up. This is a very good baseball league this year in the Sun Belt. So I got them winning. I got them sweeping ULM. What you got, Juicy? Because ULM got pummeled. And when I mean pummeled, they lost 35-8, I think, for one of those games. And when I mean damn, I mean damn. That's a butt whooping. What you got, Juicy? Oh, we're having a little bit of connection issues with Juicy there. We'll try to get Juicy back on here. So let's see. Let me try to get Juicy back here real quick. I guess we had a momentary lapse in connection, huh, Juicy?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So ULM, I think Cajuns sweep them. Who you got in that game, Juicy?
Yeah, I think the Cajuns sweep ULM. Especially after how they got pummeled 35-8 by Georgia Southern. I don't see how ULM would even beat ULM one game.
Yeah, the Cajuns didn't play Georgia Southern this year, which is interesting in that regard. But I'm surprised this predictor picked them losing the series here. Kind of odd for me. That they get sweep. Like the James Madison sweep really hurt the Cajuns. If they could have swept James Madison, even losing the series to Coastal, they would have still been right in the thick of it at that point. But that hurt really bad. I just don't see ULM winning that. I think they'll beat Louisiana Tech as well. I think they'll get a 4-game winning streak going on there. And then Texas State, I'm on the fence about that one. I really don't know. That's gonna be the last series at MLT Moore Field at Russo Park. So one of those things got to happen here. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm not looking too excited about that one. So in other news, switching over to LSU baseball, they picked up the broom this week, swept Alabama out of the Alex box.
Second week in a row,
LSU's been playing very well. They're going to play Southeastern on Tuesday of this week.
But they didn't drop in the midweek game.
Yeah, I think they'll beat Southeastern. Even if they drop it, it's not really a big deal here. I'm not too worried about midweek games. I know LSU fans lose their mind when LSU baseball loses a midweek game, but it's looking like they're going to be the number one seed in the whole entire. Ever since the Cajun game, they've been losing midweek games, because they lost to UL, they lost to Nichols last week. So I think they'll end their streak of midweek losses to Southeastern. So I got them winning. I think they're going to win 2 or 3 against Auburn. I think they might even sweep Auburn. Actually, give me a sweep.
Auburn's been pretty hot lately too, though, because Auburn's coming off that series win against South Carolina, and then they won the weekend before too. But I still think LSU's going to take 2 out of 3. I don't think they're going to sweep Auburn.
I'm on the fence about pulling a sweep. I think they'll get 2 or 3 for sure. I'm gonna go with 2 or 3. Auburn's RPI is 34 compared to LSU being number 3, I think it is, or 4. They're number 4. They have an 18-7 in quadrant 1. So I think LSU does pass it here. You see LSU, another baseball team that benefited from the transfer portal. It's gonna be like you remember the NBA like a couple of years ago when they started doing these super stacked teams. That's what's happening with college sports. You're gonna see the same thing for the next couple of years. Just one program getting these super stacked teams and going on and trying to make runs. And then they're gonna have like the Big Four or whatever go against another Big Four. That kind of thing is gonna happen in college sports across with the transfer portal. I was just thinking about that just now. So I thought that was interesting. What you think? You think that'd be correct, Juicy?
I think you're correct. I mean, there were these super teams. Last year, you thought Tennessee had a super team. They ended up losing super regionals. I mean, but for the most part, Tennessee played real well, and then you see in LSU, just mixed up with LSU. But I mean, LSU, some of it is the transfer portal, but like Dylan Cruz, Dugas, Morgan.
Oh, LSU was a good team last year. Yeah, I'm not saying LSU is completely built up from the transfer portal, but that transfer portal definitely helped this baseball team.
Like Tommy Tanks, a big one they got.
Yeah. Skeens
is another big one they got.
Northwestern State, LSU should take care of that one, I think, in the midweek. I think they'll beat Northwestern State, so next week as well. So not getting too far ahead. I got them taking 2 or 3 against Auburn. Got them beating Southeastern. So we'll move on to softball. So Louisiana Ragin Cajuns, they pulled out a sweep on the road to Coastal. They still on the road. They go to Ruston against Louisiana Tech, and they play their final series of the year against ULM Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I think they sweep this again, and I think they beat Louisiana Tech here, the Cajuns here. But here's the crazy thing about the Cajuns. They're not ranked. When I read you these numbers, you're going to be shocked about this because RPI ranked, they're number 11. Non-conference, 10. Strength of schedule is 7. Non-conference strength of schedule is 2. Versus RPI teams 1 through 25, they're 2-9. 26 through 50, 14-3. They have a 39-13 overall record. They're 19-2 in conference. Do you think the Cajuns should be ranked?
I don't see how they're not ranked. I mean, if they go, I mean, they play well. Yeah, they got a couple of hiccups along the way, but I mean, they beat Louisiana Tech. They sweep ULM, and then the conference tournament, the softball conference tournament in Lamson Park. If they can win that, I definitely think they deserve to be ranked and should even be hosted.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was looking at the numbers and I was like, the Cajuns should really be hosting. They're high. They're ranked. Their numbers are so good, but I think they're trying to find a reason for them not to host. Because, like, I mean, it'd be so crazy for, like, it would make no sense, okay? I'm calling out the committee right now that this team does not host a regional, okay? Because you're at 11, okay? RPI. They played the 7th toughest schedule in the country, okay? Now, granted, they lost 9 games against teams 1 through 25 in the RPI. But a lot of those games were in the beginning of the season. You can't really evaluate those in the beginning of the season because some of those, the Cajuns honestly should be 5-4 in that 1 through 25. They've had 2 or 3 get away late in the games because they had leads and they let them get away. And some of these were these big tournaments. I know they've had a win against Florida earlier this year, which is a big win. They're 14-3 and 26-50, so that I think that's warrant enough to be ranking. To me, they're perfect in 51 through 100. They're 91 through 101 through 200, 201 plus. They're 2-0. So I know these next 4 games are not going to really mean too much for them in RPI status, but I think they're going to win these next 4 games. Juicy, what you think?
I think so too. They shouldn't have a problem in the next 4.
What you think, Juicy? You think the Cajuns should host?
I believe they should host. I mean, numbers are there, like you were saying. They got all the right stats. They're not even ranked. I don't know why. I still haven't figured it out, but we'll just see. I mean, they should host. I don't think they'll have enough to host a super regional too. Just top 8, but I definitely they should be. I definitely think they're working on top 16. See for sure.
LSU softball is doing their last series of the year against Georgia. They're coming off a series lost to Alabama. I do LSU.
They're at home on the road.
They're at home at Tiger Park. Last series of the year. So LSU's got a very good strength of schedule. They're number 4, non-conference is a 9. They have a 3 non-conference RPI and RPI of 7. 38-13, 11-10 in conference play. They're 7-9 against RPI 1 through 25 teams. So LSU should be hosting a regional, it seems like, in those numbers as well. At least LSU's ranked at 15.
I think LSU is going to end up hosting a regional for sure.
Yeah, with softball. So what I'm thinking is, I think they're doing this on purpose to the Cajuns, because I'm gonna tell you why.
Well,
they can't. They're not gonna put They're not gonna put the Cajuns in LSU hosting that close to each other. It's only an hour separating both these areas. They're gonna probably. I think that's why they're keeping them out of the top 25. So what I think is gonna happen, even if the Cajuns win the Sun Belt, is they're gonna be going to Baton Rouge. Is what I'm thinking. They have played each other already this year, and they split the series 1-1. So they're going to put them in the same regional, and we'll see who advances where.
But that shouldn't matter, though. I think they should both get the host. But, I mean...
That's my gut feeling.
Geographically, I guess it would make sense because since the fans are... It's not a far drive either way. So
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think the Cajuns going to get screwed out of a regional spot because of that business. Which, it's weird because Lamson Park is a bigger venue than Tiger Park is. That can hold more fans.
That's only
that's
bus drive across the Chapelite Basin, Mississippi.
I would think the NCAA would want a bigger venue for a regional event. That's just me.
They want the more prestigious school, apparently.
Apparently, yeah. I would like for both schools to get a regional spot. They honestly both deserve one. It doesn't make any sense that they would do it that way, but I guess I think they're going to put it
close together.
Yeah, that's what my gut's telling me that I think is going to end up happening. So anyway, I got LSU beating Georgia. I think they'll win 2-3 against Georgia. What you think, Juicy?
I think they'll win 2 or 3 as well. I'd like to. I'm actually thinking about trying to go to one of their games at Tiger Park this weekend before the season closes.
Yeah, Georgia's got a good RPI themselves. They're 14, but I think they've got a little bit weaker strength of schedule compared to LSU. So I'm gonna go with LSU beating them 2-3. All right, Juicy. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about before we get off the air here?
I think we'll see it.
Thank y'all for tuning into the Fishbowl Radio here tonight. We're gonna I just got back from my cruise that we went on, so I did post a little video on that. Just walking on the Carnival Valor. That was a very nice experience for just get a little getaway time. That's why we didn't have a show last week. So, it's fun. Every once in a while, you need to do a little reboot of yourself. So, we'll see what happens. But thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a great, wonderful night and have a great day, Fishbowl Nation.
Good night, Fishbowl.